She didn't get the job, and that changed everything. In today's ClearVoice Marketers in Conversation, I'm passing the mic to Lashay Lewis, the founder of BOFU.ai. She took a no and turned it into a bottom of funnel content empire. So if you've ever been disappointed by missing out on an opportunity, this one's for you. Hi, my name is Joanna Bowzer, and I am the Director of Marketing here at ClearVoice. And today I am passing the mic to Lashay Lewis, the founder of BOFU.ai. Lashay, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Joanna. I am super excited to I don't even know fully what we're going to dive into. I think for me, that's the fun in all this, but I'm so excited to just give as much value as I can. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump in and see where the conversation takes us, right?
All
So the
right.
whole idea here is that we create some great conversations for marketers to learn about content. And I'm going to kind of come at it from what I want to learn about today. So I've been following you since your first podcast appearance on Exit 5 and in that community, and then LinkedIn and all of your amazing thought leadership as you've grown your personal brand in the marketplace. What I've been always excited to read about from you is your approach to bottom of funnel content. And then more recently, how you're using middle of funnel and bottom of funnel content to drive AI search, right? And create results for companies there. So that's not really a question. That's just kind of a topic. So before we dive into that though, tell me a little bit about you, your background, sort of where you're coming from so that we can get everybody grounded in who you are.
Yeah. So you want the long story or the short story?
I will take the story you want to tell.
Okay. So I started building websites at 15. I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want to work for anybody. And from there, I started working across different agencies. I started building these little Amazon affiliate websites, but all my OG affiliate marketers know that you're not going to live off of Amazon commissions. They're like 3%. So, but that experience helped me get my feet wet in terms of, okay, what are the different funnel stages? And it just gave me the confidence to say, I can make some random person around the world buy something through words. And that just fascinated me. So I was like, okay, started working across different agencies, things like that, grew a strong distaste for them. We can talk about that soon too. But I learned a lot working for those agencies. I actually started in e-commerce, which is interesting. So all the affiliate sites I was doing, a lot of the agency stuff was deep in e-commerce. And then around maybe 25, 26, I was first finding SaaS, and I was like, ew, I hate SaaS. It's boring. It's complicated. I'm like, no, I don't think I want to do that. But for some reason, I tend to be attracted to challenges. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can do this. And then I started diving in a little bit, and it was very complicated for me. So, I was trying to figure out, how can I make this easier for myself to learn? I tried to work for this agency that was premier in bottom of funnel content, and I didn't get that opportunity. And it was because I didn't know how to write bottom of funnel, and I'm sure a lot of other writers and marketers can relate to me when I say this, but as writers, typically we're taught to write by Googling a term, looking through the top 10 search results, and then mashing that together and saying, okay, here goes your article. But that's not how good content is written. And I didn't know that. So I wasn't able to get that opportunity, that agency that I really, really wanted. But the founder was kind enough to take me under his wing. And he's very cutthroat in terms of his editing style, his writing style. But that's exactly what I needed. Honestly, getting that opportunity, not getting it, hurt me so bad that I was like, I'm never going to miss another opportunity because I didn't know enough. And not just for me, but for anybody else that wants an opportunity, but that doesn't know enough around content strategy and content marketing. From there, I created this dashboard. I'm like, okay, what would have helped me get that opportunity if I had X, Y, and Z? So I created this dashboard in Notion and put everything in it. And I was like, you know what? If companies had their information consolidated for their writers and not oh, product has this thing and sales has that thing and marketing has this thing. If everything was in one place, I probably would have been able to execute on that job better. So from there, I just made this dashboard and then I put it out on LinkedIn. It got one like. I was like, oh, well, 2 months later, put it out again. And that was my first viral type of post, maybe like
Mhm.
245 likes. Grew my email list, did all this stuff. And then I used that in the pitch in order to be able to get on Exit 5. But I don't think that's what got me on Exit 5. I think it was coming with a clear set of things that I wanted to talk about, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was I'm jumping around a little bit. I didn't tell you about the two jobs part and have like getting let go of one of them, and it's
Sure.
a whole shebang, but that's kind of like the short condensed version of like how I got here.
Sure. Well, and what I love about what you're saying, when we think about marketers, right? So, what do we know about marketers generally? Is like you have to be curious, like you have to be growing. Like, if you're not learning and growing as a marketer, like what are you doing? And that doesn't look always the same, like market
Right.
research and things like that. It could be even just learning something in your personal life that just helps your thinking expand. But what I really am inspired by and what you're sharing is that you broke down, you're like, what had me not succeed here? So I
Yep.
could put it, I could put the things in place that will have me succeed or have this
Yep.
work. Looking at the gaps in that way is a really powerful way of development, whether you're developing your strategy or developing yourself or developing your team, right? Like whatever you're developing is kind of looking at what's not there as an
Yep.
entry, as well as what do we need to do. And I think
Totally.
is that
Yeah.
maybe like I feel like the one of the places you kind of sit in the conversation around content online is where people aren't looking, which is bottom of funnel. Like people don't
Yep.
focus on bottom of funnel. People spend so much time in top of funnel and maybe middle of funnel, but like you said, those search terms, I dare say that's why bottom of funnel really kind of speaks to you because it's like, hey, this is where people are looking. Let's go.
It's the
But
underdog,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
just like me. So no, you're totally right though. But I knew what battle I was up against. So some people will look at me and say, "Ah, she has her niche carved out, like she's doing such a good job." And but the education that you have to do in order to get somebody to say, "You know what? I do
Mm,
need a bottom of funnel strategy." I have
sure.
learned up until, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword where it's like people that know they need a bottom of funnel strategy like are on it, but it's a
Right.
lot of people that don't know they need it. So you
Sure.
have to educate the person up until the point of purchase, which
Sure.
you should be doing anyway, but it's
Right.
just like, you have to educate your market up until that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think one of the things I'm curious about your company, kind of human led, right, but AI focused.
Yes.
Tell me about what that means for you, sort of strategically, philosophically, because I'm curious. I have a similar sort of personal philosophy too, where it's like AI is so vital, but also it's got to be driven by humans. But I want to know what Lashay's version of that is.
Very much of the same, right? Where it's like AI is good, but it's not everything. And
Mm,
like I would tell people before, I was saying this last year, like AI is the modifier, not the use case. So the use case is the thing that you do well. What can you help somebody do? AI just helps you do that a little bit quicker and more efficiently, but it's not the value prop. At this point, AI is very commoditized. Everybody has it, everybody uses it. So, what is it that sets you apart from
right.
everybody else, even with AI, right? So I was
Mhm.
deeply grounded in my use case before I even added AI to anything. In fact, it took me 2 years to add AI to BOFU because I'm like, there's a certain standard that I expect my content to be,
Sure.
and AI was not doing that. I think one of the mistakes I made in the beginning was thinking that AI was going to run from beginning to end. That was a flawed way of thinking. It's more of like AI can help you foundationally, and then you bring a human in to be able to quality check it, make sure everything is good. You know what I mean? So it's like
Sure.
a human in the loop type of process where it's like AI and then human and a little bit of AI and more human. And like I tell people, 80 AI can get you maybe like 80% of the way there. You're going to need a human to take you that extra 20%. And again, I felt like I was falling behind because it did take me so long to integrate AI into my processes. But that was because I have a very meticulous process. So it
Sure.
wasn't as easy as going to GPT and saying, hey, I want to write an article about the best
Right.
payroll management software and
Right.
have it spit something out. Like, no, like, honestly, maybe it was good that I couldn't find a solution, because I'm not trying to call nobody out, no shade, but Jasper and copy.ai and all these other type of, you know, AI writing co-pilots
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do the job for me. I'm not saying they're not good tools, but they couldn't do it for me.
Sure.
And that's when I first seen the gap in the market, maybe sometime in 2023, where
Mm-hmm.
I seen AI writing co-pilots could not create good bottom of funnel content. And I was like, you know what? There's a gap here. I wonder if I could fill it. Typical entrepreneur question. But yeah, that's when I first seen the gap. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and I think I'm curious, when you think about like the content at different places of the funnel. So obviously there's different content types, but with respect to bottom of funnel, like what are the hallmarks of bottom of funnel content that make it especially difficult to use AI to craft, right? Whether either from ideation all the way through to completion. Like what are the hallmarks of BOFU content that make it especially difficult to use AI for?
That you need input from multiple teams in order to be able to write it. That's first thing. And the reason that's an issue is because people are using AI, companies are using AI, but it's very fragmented. It's like content uses it for their thing, product uses it for their thing. There's no streamlined type of solution for AI, you know? So it's like, if you put that on top of people not editing the right way and making sure the content speaks to the persona, and then that you're listing the capabilities, and then that the capabilities that you're listing solve the pain point, it's very like, it's a lot of connectivity. um
Mm-hmm.
and I think the problem is, and again, no shade, a lot of people don't know how to write bottom of funnel content, good bottom of funnel content. So if you add that on
Right.
top of AI, it's
Blind
like,
leading the blind.
yes, 100%. And like I tell people, like, if you're creating shit already, AI is going to do nothing but scale the shit. You know what I mean? You
Right.
have to start with something good foundationally, and then if you put AI on top of that with good strategy, of course, you're going to be fine. Yeah.
Sure. Sure, and I think it's interesting, like, because that's definitely my experience too. Where the further down the funnel you go, the closer to brand it is, the closer to product marketing it is. Like again,
Yes.
you have so many different
Yes.
stakeholders because the asset is doing different things, right? Like
Yes.
it's more
Yes.
of a sales asset usually, or it's a conversion asset in a different way. Like it's just telling a different story than like my search content might, or what like my sort of top of funnel stuff too. So it's interesting to hear that reflected in your experience as well. I'm curious, is there any like campaigns or projects you've worked on that like taught you some lessons that you would want to share and make sure other people know so they don't make either the same mistakes or they can learn the lesson faster?
So many lessons. Don't wait too long to do this. Like,
Mhm.
so
Sure.
so for example, if your goal is to start driving inbounds next quarter, you should have started last quarter. Not even
Right.
right now, last quarter, you know? And it's like, everybody knows this, but I think it's worth saying SEO is just one of those things that kind of takes time, right? But one cool thing about bottom of funnel is that usually the time to revenue is quicker than something like top of funnel. Because again, you don't know how long it's going to take somebody to get through an entire buying cycle. Could be 6 to 9 months, especially if we're dealing with enterprise SaaS. Like, it could be a long time. But I think a lesson is, if you feel like you need to get started 6 months from now, start right now. Unless
Mhm.
you're willing to like
Sure.
wait for those results. If you're like, okay, I need results by Q4 of this year, you need to start right now. Like, don't wait until Q4 and say, oh, I'm going to bring somebody on for SEO. And, like, you need to be ahead of the curve on that. I think the companies that did their SEO the right way 2 years ago are the
Mhm.
companies that are now starting to reap the rewards of LLM search visibility, all that type of stuff, right? So don't, also another really important lesson, don't cheap out on it.
Mm.
Like, don't,
Yeah.
you get what you pay for,
Sure.
right? So don't 20, 30, $40,000 a month in paid ads. And then when it comes to organic, oh, well, $2,500 should take it. Like, no, invest in your organic strategy. Those are the two things. Start
Sure.
before you think you need to, and then make sure you invest properly.
And then do you like with respect to the different sort of like content pieces within the funnel. How do you look at things like YouTube search against AI search against traditional search and the work that you do? Is there any sort of distinction or thought that you give between the different channels that might differ?
So repurposing is very important, but you need to understand that every channel comes with its own strategy. You know what I mean? Like, you can't take a blog post and put it on LinkedIn. That's not how it works. Like, you can take the core themes from the blog post and put it on LinkedIn, but you need to format it as a LinkedIn post. You know what I mean? And then the same thing with a blog. If you want to turn a blog, which I recommend for a lot of people, if you want to turn a blog into a YouTube video, there needs to be some changes there. Typically, I recommend middle of funnel content for YouTube videos because it's more demonstrational and that
Right.
matches the channel. You know what I mean? Like, YouTube is very like demonstrational. Okay, here's how you do a thing step by step. And it's like, you can take ideas that you've already published, but you need to make sure they fit that channel. And here's my like rant when it comes to companies trying to bundle 4 and 5 different jobs into one person. It's like, not everybody knows these different channels,
Right.
right? So somebody might be excellent with blogging but terrible at YouTube, or great with organic social and terrible with SEO, you know? So it's like, I just feel like the jobs need to be split out properly. And then somebody that does have familiarity with all of those channels can serve as a head of content to be
Sure.
able to help the people underneath. Okay, here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to do. And again, I've got experience with all these channels, but if I didn't have experience with these channels, it'd be a nightmare trying to do all that.
Right.
And you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
yeah, different strategies for different channels. You can repurpose, but understand that it needs to run through its own ecosystem of repurposing before you put it on another channel. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I've definitely worked, I have not at ClearVoice as much, but I've worked with companies where they don't understand. They're like, "Well, why can't you do Google Analytics and Tag Manager and also do the ManyChat funnel and also build the CRM platform?" And I'm like, "Look, I could probably figure it all out. I have touched all of these things in my career, but I haven't touched Meta since 2020. Like, it has
Right.
developed since then. So the theory is still valid, but I'm like, I don't know where the buttons are. I'm sorry. Or like YouTube
Totally.
strategy changes so fast that like you really do need somebody with like expertise and interest in that channel because it's like just such a fast algorithmic change.
No, everything is everything is changing. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then just prime example, like I was deep into YouTube SEO and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a whole different ball game than even Google, right? So we know they're owned by the same company, but still, it's like the nature of the platform is just different. It's more nuanced, it's more complicated. Putting somebody in these places that deeply understand the channel, the function, how it works, you're just going to get further than trying to get one person to do every single thing.
Right.
That might be good for them in terms of, career development and skill development if you're not stressing them out. But
Right.
in terms of like getting you results how you want them, if you're going to put somebody in that position, you got to understand you got to wait for them results. Like, they're not going to come
Yeah.
when you want them to get there, which is usually for companies pretty quickly,
Sure.
you know.
Sure. So now this may be pushing on the agency wound a little bit, but agencies sometimes purport to be able to do all of those things, right? Like we can put together the
Yeah.
team of fractional pros that can touch all these things. In your experience, how true is it in an agency configuration versus maybe a director or VP of marketing pulling in like fractional people that are sort of like solopreneurs, not hiring a team through an agency, but actually building their own bench of people to do it, maybe even at a fractional level. Like what's your kind of take? What's your hot take there?
I've consistently seen marketing directors, C-suite level individuals in-house say how much of a better experience they have when they bring on individual consultants versus hiring agencies. There are posts on LinkedIn about that. I actually had one of my clients tag me in a post about the same thing. When we first started talking, she was choosing between me and an agency, right? And in my sales deck, I had why she shouldn't choose an agency. And everything that I listed in that sales deck checked out that they have said. And the reason that I know that is because I work for them.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, I've got like intel on, okay, here's what they're promising you. You're going to have the founder sell you. And then once the founder sells you, they're going to hand you off to a junior, which is going to be responsible for managing your account. Not every agency operates like that, but typically that is the hierarchy. And it's so they can make a profit, right? Because you don't have to pay a junior what you would have to pay somebody like me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's typically that's how it's ran. But I've consistently seen in-house employees talk about how they have such a better experience when they hire a specialized consultant versus an agency consistently.
Sure. Even though it's a little bit more of a, like, you got to bring the different bands together as opposed to going to having one neck to ring, right? You got to like sort of manage the troops there, but you still get the pros.
That's a good point. One other thing I would say too is that this is the power in having a strong referral network, because I've had engagements where companies have been like, hey, well, you do bottom of funnel well, but do you know anybody that does paid ads? Oh, well, do you know anybody that does HubSpot? Oh, well, do you know anybody that does demand gen? And I have people for all of those things. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I help in that regard too. And then I also get to help my friends who are awesome consultants and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's interesting that you say that, because I never sell it as like, oh, I'm going to help you build your entire team. But I've helped companies build entire teams just off of consultants. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and partly you want your stuff to work. So you need people to get the stuff to work too, right?
100%. And I think the cool thing about that too is that when you have friends in a referral network, you get to see how your process ties into theirs. So if I create a bottom of funnel piece, there's a guy that does paid ads that runs the paid ads to the bottom of funnel articles. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so everything smartly ties into one another. Yeah.
Sure. And that's something too. I guess consultants can get closer to the principal strategy, right? Versus agency, which is, there's layers now to it. But you're like playing a game of telephone.
100%. And it's crazy because when I was with those agencies, like, I did not agree with how they ran things, to the point where I couldn't stay at one too long because everybody ran it the same way. Like, the work was very boring. It was very monotonous. It was very like, God, what is the point of me existing? It's very like, and it's crazy because at the time I was like, damn, this sucks. But those experiences taught me how to sell my ass off when it comes to talking to people about, and honestly, my whole competitive positioning is against agencies. Like, that's I don't even like to call myself an agency. Like, I call myself a consultancy. You know what I mean? Like, positioning is everything. Maybe to some people I am an agency, but to me, I like to call myself a consultancy. It's the positioning. Same thing when it came to me not getting that job at the agency that I wanted, and how you just mentioned, like, building from what I didn't know and building from those weaknesses. And me starting this whole thing was just building from agencies' weaknesses. And I'm just like, you know what? They don't do that right. Let me do everything they don't do. That was literally the plan.
Sure. No, and ClearVoice sits in the market in a weird way, right? Like, we're not quite an agency, we're more of a production arm. And so we see the pain points of our clients as they deal with agencies. And then we also have to be mindful not to be seen that way, right? Like, we have to sort of like create that value in our delivery process so that we can combat that, the bad stuff that's happening, the sour taste that they have in their mouth for the last agency they worked with, where we're like, hey, we're actually not, like, we're just giving great writers, we're not trying to, we're not trying to bust up your whole process here. We just want to help you find writers.
You're so spot on with that. And I like to tell people I have two jobs. Like, one is like a content therapist, and the second one is an actual marketer, because I have to talk people through a lot of like those objections because they've had shitty experiences with other agencies. Well, are you going to do this? And are you going to do that? And are you going to do this? And it's like, again, those experiences help me mold into the type of consultant that I wanted to be. But not just that, but eventually when I went on to grow a consultancy that consisted of more of just myself, how I wanted that to be structured and the type of quality that I wanted to deliver and produce. Yeah.
Sure. So tell me about the consultancy, because I'm curious, sort of your founder mindset as far as like who you work with, how you work with them, like how you build your team. Like, what is your approach to that?
Yeah. So I work with B2B SaaS companies. Typically, they are horizontal, meaning they have a lot of different, probably products, different personas, different ICPs. It gets really complicated, but I like to work with them because they typically have a whole treasure trove of bottom of funnel content that they are not capitalizing on, you know? So I like to work with them. And I was solo for 2 years. I've been solo for 2 years. I started the consultancy 2 years ago, have been solo since then, just as of like 2 months ago. So first of all, I pre-launched BOFU.ai 3 months ago. And when I went to market with this, I'm like, okay, I don't know. I got to figure out my positioning. It's slightly different than Authority Plug, which is my first consultancy that I've been running up until this point. I had that consultancy highly productized. So my whole consultancy was built in Notion, and I would take clients through the same 3-step process: one, product and customer research; two, content frameworks and keywords, and then three, tracking, take them through the same process. I learned so much productizing that a lot of other agency founders and consultants don't really know, because a lot of consultants I talk to are very like fractional. They're still in a fractional state of mind. I don't look at myself as a fractional. I do work fractional for one company, but I don't look at myself as a fractional marketer. So BOFU.ai is not a fractional consultancy. It's a very productized process. So for 2 years, even till now, I ran my whole business off of frameworks, these bottom of funnel frameworks that I have, and I would have the team come in and fill in those frameworks. But the problem with that is the teams were just too busy. Like, they did not have the bandwidth to be able to come in and do this stuff. So now I'm faced with a decision where I'm like, okay, what's that next step? And again, remember, I told you I seen a gap in the market at the end of 2023 with AI writing copilots. So I'm like, okay, let me try this BOFU thing. Any entrepreneur knows we have a ton of domains in Namecheap and whatever you use that you haven't been. But I was like, you know what? Let me grab this BOFU.ai just in case something, shakes. At the end of 2023, I started it, and long story short, completely spiraled, didn't sell anything, so bad, like everything was screwed. And then toward the end of 2024, I'm like, okay, let me go back to Authority Plug, started picking up again. 6 months later, which would be March of 2025, is when I said, you know what? BOFU.ai is not gonna be a software, because originally that's what I was trying to go for.
Sure.
I'm like, I'm gonna turn it into a consultancy. And from there, it was just like, I don't know. It's really hard to put into words. Like, the last 3 months have been insane, but just taking that productized model and teaching it to AI to be able to like run a lot of the functions that I would have to get teams to do has been such a game changer.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to what you were saying earlier about your processes have to be dialed before you start to take them into
Yes.
AI. Because if you're not, then you're building something that's on shaky foundation. But you knew your frameworks were solid. Now it's like, how can I automate this, right? Automate, eliminate,
Yes.
delegate. How can I
Yes.
automate this? Yeah.
No, you're totally right. Like, and again, I've been running the same playbook for 2 years. So I'm like, okay, these frameworks are good. So how do I take my process and like do the positioning and switch this around and get AI involved? And now I've gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I've been able to teach AI the frameworks. When we go in, AI gives us a first draft based on the frameworks, have the editor, human in the loop process, come in and like edit it up, make sure it flows right,
Right.
and then publish from there, So this
Right.
helps us do two things. Number one, it helps us publish quicker.
Sure.
Number two, it keeps my team small, because I don't want a
Right.
huge company.
You don't want to carry a big
Like,
team.
yeah. I just want a small team that's like able to really execute. And I think, and again, I'm already grounded in my use case. So adding AI is not, oh, she's changing the value prop and she's changing everything around. No, it's just me executing on the use case more efficiently. That's all it is.
Sure. And I think that that's the real takeaway, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it is not the value prop. AI is not the value prop. AI is a
Yes.
tool that helps you deliver your value prop in a more efficient or cost effective way, whichever your, like, wherever your levers are, right?
I think a good example here, and again, this isn't to like trash talk them, but this, I think there's a lesson in here. So Jasper was one of the, if not the first AI writing copilot company to come to market. And the problem with that was there was no clear use case. The
Mm,
use case was scale, right? Scale your
right.
content, scale your content, scale. But once AI became commoditized and everybody could say, scale your content, scale your content, it's like, what's the value proposition at that point? You know what I
Right.
mean? What
Yeah.
makes me want to choose you over a competitor? And then once you have to ask yourself that question and you have no clear answer, at that point, then you start competing on price. And we already know that's a race to the bottom, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. That's so interesting. Well, I'd love to ask you a couple personal questions.
Sure.
Okay. So we've talked so much about your work and like what you do, and I totally, first of all, I totally get that you love it. So again, it's, I know it's work, but it definitely
Yeah.
feels very like vision aligned and like mission aligned for you because you light
Yes.
up when you talk about it, right? You get excited, and not just because you're like being recorded, but I think if we were talking over
No,
coffee,
yeah.
we'd be just as excited.
Right.
But what do you do in your personal time? Like what in your non-work life lights you up, and do you spend your time doing?
Mainly with the kids, right? So I've got 4 kids and mainly spending time with them and my husband and just I think a lot of it is just doing things I've never done before. So I spent a lot
Sure.
of my 20s like very isolated, very like trying to figure this whole entrepreneur thing out, spent a lot of it depressed, like, so I think now I just do my best to try to like savor every day because I don't know. I could remember there was a point where I would dream about these things. Like I've got, a nice house and my own office. And because when I first started recording, I was recording podcasts out my kitchen. Like the first 2 Exit 5 podcasts were in my old house in the kitchen. No lighting, no good
Sure.
mic, no nothing. So just honestly, I spend a lot of my time just being grateful, because I had so many days where I was like praying for stuff like this. And sometimes when I get like too in the mix and I'm like, oh, this is a lot I'm doing, I got to take a step back and be like, everything that I'm going through right now, like I prayed for all of it. So,
Mhm.
I try to like capture that and live in that as much as possible. But yeah, just experiencing new things, right? Like horse riding and traveling and doing all these things I didn't get to do in my 20s because I was so like business focused and hustle culture, child of the
Right.
hustle culture for sure. Like,
Yeah.
so I that literally that's what I spend my time doing. And if I have time in between, I'll game too, big gamer.
Sure.
But other than that, like yeah, I'm just taking it all in.
Sure. Very cool. My husband tells has been playing this game. It's out of France. It's like there's like people that they go to an island to try to save the civilization, and there's a countdown. So like every year there's like it loses a number, and the people, so like 34, so anybody that's 34 that year would
You
pass
don't know
away.
the name of it?
I'll message you off. I'll message you offline. I can't remember what it is, but I was like,
Because that
I've been
sounds so
watching it.
cool.
It looks beautiful, so I'll send it to you because I like.
Yeah,
I'm like,
please do.
hey, we should check it out. And now we've lost the plot marketers. We'll bring it back.
Right.
Well, I guess one final question for you, and you said so beautifully like what your 20s were really like overly focused on business and hustle culture, and really as you've grown across your career, you've learned to let some of that go and
Yeah.
find a different path and find a different way of working, and having a family, with 4 children. while you're building this is unbelievable. I mean, just like really, I would be excited to talk to them and be like, what was your experience of this like journey that mom and partner went on, all of that. So I think that I really like am just inspired by that from you. So thank you for sharing that with us here. But my last question is like, is there any like just mic drop advice that you would want to give to young marketers or even mid-career marketers out there that are really trying to figure it out, whether they're trying to figure out content or trying to figure out their career? Just any like last words of wisdom that you'd want to leave?
I would say, and it sounds so cliche, but like keep learning. Where you are does not have to be where you end up. The destination can be stationary, but the path is fluid. That's very important because you could want something and you could think, okay, I'm going to do this and that and this and that, and it's going to get me there. It's probably not going to work exactly how you think it's going to work, but you could still end up in the same place. So, for example, with that agency I wanted to work for, I just knew I'm like, oh, I'm going to work my ass off. Like, I know I'm going to get this position. Like, I know I'm going to get it. But honestly, not getting it was the best thing that could have happened for me. Because if I didn't get it, I wouldn't have created all this stuff that I've created because that stuff was built out of pain. The pain does have a purpose. You just need to stick with it long enough to be able to see that purpose through. And honestly, if you've been through a lot of stuff and you're still going through a lot of stuff, like at this point, you might as well just finish it out. Don't have, because that was my mentality.
Just move through it.
Like that was my entire mentality. I'm like, I have busted my ass up until this point and have been through so much depression and so much self-doubt and so much of this. I'm seeing it through. Like this is going to be worth something,
Sure.
So be patient with yourself. Give yourself some time. You do not have to be an expert at everything yet, and learn how to build from your weaknesses. So if there's something you don't know how to do, but you kind of want to know how to do, create a framework for that helps you be able to do that thing better. Because that's where my frameworks came from, right? Like I didn't know how to write bottom of funnel content as good as I wanted to. So I created framework because I can't write from a blank page, right? Weaknesses aren't always weaknesses. Your weakness can be turned into somebody else's strength. You know what I mean? So like just, keep that mentality as you go through your career. Like, and if you're not feeling happy, like take a step back and think like, okay, what do I want to do? And what's the first step that I could take to put myself on a path to making sure I get there? Again, the path will be fluid, but the destination can still be the same.
Sure. Got it. Awesome. Well, with that, let's leave it there because that was, I think, the ultimate mic drop. So Lashay, thank you so much for joining me today on Marketers in Conversation. I really appreciate it. How can people find you online? Just real quick.
LinkedIn, first and foremost. I put a lot of what I hope to be good content on LinkedIn. Substack as well. So I'm working on Substack to be able to build like an ultimate bottom of funnel resource for marketers. So those are the two places you can find me, and don't hesitate to reach out, say hello. If you have any questions, let me know. Always happy to, as Joanna said, like when I talk about my business, I light up because I'm very aligned with everything. So don't hesitate to reach out to me and say hello, ask questions. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was such a pleasure.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If Lashay's story resonated with you, subscribe to our channel. We have weekly conversation with marketers who are building smarter, not louder.